Alright folks, excuse the little shake here. We got a tiller from 1977. So this means a couple of things. It's got points and condensers obviously, which we're going to remedy with a magnetron ignition used. And it's got an auto choke system on it that I do have parts for, but I'm going to sell this and those parts are hard to find, so we're going to set the new owner up with a plasma prime carburetor and tank. So it's going to start nice and easy. It'll be something they're familiar with, and be a little more reliable and easier to get parts for. We have the proper air filter for this older style breather. These are a little harder to find, but not too bad. Actually, this probably isn't a perfect fit, but it'll work. If you've got the one that goes with the old tank, you're not going to need that. So let's pull some parts off and see how it goes, see what we're getting into here. So first thing we're going to do is pull the throttle and kill cable off. You want to put this clamp back on so you don't lose it. And that's just a Z-bend cable that pops right out. So there's 3 bolts to hold most of these on. Now depending on when and where it was made, it could be a 3/8 or it could be a 7/16. But they're all 1/4 20 by about half or 5/8 long. Just the head changes a little bit. Okay, so we can see Fluffy was in here. Our recoil works fine. Seems nice and fine. But what you want to do with these, there's a little hole up top, and you want to give them a shot of nice thin oil. Do not use WD-40, that's garbage and it hardens over time. You want something that it's going to stay a liquid. Alright, so we're going to get rid of Fluffy here. Now that was pretty recent. I didn't notice that yesterday, and this is all green grass. That might have been a mouse that worked hard last night because I just mowed the lawn last night. But anyway, doesn't matter. Pull this off. As I said, we're going to save and reuse this breather. Now let's take a look at this element in here. This is what happens to foam over time. Garbage. Alright. Switch back over to 5/16. And we're going to pull the... This is the air vane governor that these use. I really like that system. Pretty much bulletproof. Okay, that's... Yeah. So with the springs and everything they get on here, this might have to gear up a different linkage. I'm hoping not. That is all bent to pieces. I might have to find a new one. If you're doing this, chances are it'll still be good. Back over to this side, there's one bolt that goes through here, and that's the wrong. Okay, so somebody's put a different bolt on that. So somebody at some point stripped that out and they put a 5/16 bolt in it. We'll deal with that later. Okay, so this, hopefully you can see this, but you can see how loose that tube is. That is not good. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to play havoc with your diaphragms and stuff in your carburetor. So let's tighten that up. Alright, I might have to shorten that up anyways. We'll see. 1/4 inch. Pop this coil off. Alright, so this is a points coil. I'm not going to use this. Quick yank, we'll pull the wires right out of the old points. And those points can stay right in there, we don't need them. And they won't hurt a thing in there. Now, this is your kill wire. I'm going to yank that out too, like so. And normally we just shorten that end of it up, but it's got some tape on it, so we'll re-evaluate that. Okay, so this nice and shiny there, no issue. Alright, we need to put an end on here. I don't have the right size crimp, so I'm just going to double that over. And that'll hold just fine. Just like that. Now these are labeled this side out, but your kill tab always goes in. And I've already cleaned up all these surfaces. So these surfaces need to be cleaned to make a ground. And these surfaces, they don't actually need to be cleaned per se, but it's easier to get the proper spacing on your coil. There's that. Oh, joy. I have the wrong coil. Yeah, I gotta get a different coil. Just hold tight, guys. Alright, sorry about that, folks. Turns out I didn't have a used coil that fits it. If you're wondering about these coils, so this is actually not the coil I had for this, but I pulled off another motor. So this is off of a Quantum, and they have the 2 sets of holes. I'm pretty sure these work on the Quantum. Well, I know they work on the Quantum, I just took it off one, but I think the other set of holes for the 5-horse. So I actually had to go get a new coil. Now these work on these and a couple other ones, but they're really long. So I'll have to at some point snip that a little shorter. And while I was looking, I found the proper wire, just the proper size thingy on it there. So let's plug that in. Side out. Get in there. That's not the right size coil either, but let me go do a modification. I'm making a fool of myself on this video. I'll just keep the camera down here. Alright, we're back on track. Hopefully you won't have that issue. But I just sent a whole bunch of stuff to the junkyard, and I've done a whole bunch of these upgrades recently, and I just out of coils. But anyways, I just had to file that out a little bit. It won't make a difference, I promise. So just a piece of cardstock is all you really need to space your coil. Business card. Business card works fine. There, we've got a new coil on there. We've got our air vane governor on there. Let's put this little tank together. Now I rebuilt that carburetor off screen, and it may or may not even have needed to be rebuilt. That's not what this video was about, so I didn't show it. But I did want to show this. So your pump, which is that little thin piece with the little flappers on it, always goes on the machine surface, and then a gasket. And then we're going to set this guy on there and put our screws in. I actually rebuilt this carburetor long ago. It's just sitting in my cart shed. Now the screws they're going into aluminum, but they're going through the plastic carburetor, so you don't have to crank the living hell out of these. So the muffler on this one is good. I'm not going to change it, although it is smaller. Current ones, or I guess I shouldn't say the current ones, but the ones that would have been on a motor with this tank would be a little bit bigger, a little bit quieter. But they're all 1/2-inch pipe thread. If I wanted to change it, I could. You can put the cigar mufflers on here too. But, I don't like the looks of it, so I'm not going to. So, you always want to make sure your O-ring is still in place. And this little tube here goes across. It's just a little bit loose. And that'll screw us. It'll make it run a little odd. There, nice and tight now. It'll suck air is what'll happen with that. Alright, now we're just going to hook up this kill wire, and it's a bit longer than we need, so I'm going to shorten that up. I might actually bring the camera over to this side because we're going to do some work on the other side. Alright. Sorry about the shoddy workmanship on the camera end, but alright. So these just have a little push tab in there. You push it up, you slide it in, and you're done. Now we want to take this and tuck it up into that corner. It's out of the way. Now, the fuel tank, or the carburetor. I'm going to mock it up here first. And sure enough, that tube is too long. So remember I said that might have to be shortened up. I'm going to put an approximate mark on it. See, this is why I say, but make sure those are on there. Because sometimes you pull them off the other engines, they stay on there. But it's just an O-ring and a snap ring. It's just a friction thing. Alright, I'm going to take this in and cut it, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so here's our shortened tube after taking half or 3/4 of an inch off, something like that. These tubes are usually all pretty similar, but the length of them does vary, and some of them even have a little offset in them. It does vary based on which carburetor they were paired up with. So you might have to do a little something to her. Okay, we want that straight up and down, which is what we have. Then we shove it on. Everything's got to go in together. Now you didn't see me take it out of the end because it wasn't there. Somebody omitted it, but there should have been a bolt right here. And the other one is going to go in through here. Now this is the one that somebody modified on us. And we still have the spacer. And the bolt I will worry about later. We'll do that off camera. I'll just make the video unnecessarily long. Alright, now we have to hook up our governor linkage. First we have to go find a governor linkage. So I'm going to put you on pause because that one is messed up. Let's see what we can find. Alright, so I've got a linkage. It's actually the same linkage. I just rebent it based on another motor that I have here on. So you can take the carburetor off, or you can take the governor vane off. It's easier just take the governor vane off. Link everything together. And then put it back. Alright. So that that's full throttle. Just going to make a little adjustment here. There, that's better. I just had to bend it a little bit because at full throttle the governor was touching the flywheel, and we don't want that. So there. Oh yeah. And it's hitting the coil too. This is the problem with aftermarket shit. There. I just had to take a little tiny snippet out of there. Shouldn't hurt it. Alright, now here's the hard part. So the way this works, this is off. So this comes around and it touches the kill, which is over here. I'll bring it back to this side. So that little tab right there is the kill tab. So that kills it. Now we don't really care about the minimum throttle, we're more interested in the maximum throttle. So our next job is going to be to put the cover back on. So I'm just going to pause you while I rearrange some stuff here. Alright, so I'm going to gather up our hardware here. So there's one point where a lot of people damage stuff, is they just jam this cover down and they'll pinch this wire. So you got to make sure that wire is in that little notch for it. And I got the wrong size socket on there, but it's easy to fix. Now, the nice thing about, that's still the wrong size. The nice thing about doing stuff like this is, usually if you're scrapping an old motor, you have lots of parts left over. So you can do like I do and put all the same size hardware back in. Figure out which socket I need. So at some point Briggs and Stratton decided that they just put the same size head on everything, even though the bolts, you know, they're a little different here and there, but by putting the same size head on them and the assembly line, everything is easier to put together because you're not changing sockets or having one person do something different because of the tooling. Anyway, that's it. 3 bolts. Make sure that's in the right spot. And now on this here, we'll figure out how that's hooked up. Okay, right there's the way that normally goes. Out of the way. Now when you're putting these cables on, take a second and observe how this is level. If I'd put that on the top, it wouldn't have worked quite as well. It has still worked. Wrong. Just not as well. Alright, so that's kill. That's full throttle. Now, we need the right governor spring. Now that is not the right one. Anyway, just set the camera up here so you can see what I'm about to do. Alright, so I've taken this cable back off, and if you look at this, you'll see it's quite twisted. So, one very important thing. If you're going to do this, and you don't need this kill circuit, take this plate off of the motor you stole this off of, because then all the linkages will work out. So I've just had to bend this up quite a bit just to make it fit. Not a big deal. It is a needless endeavor though if you don't need that kill circuit, because the push mowers these come off of don't have that kill circuit on there. It's actually up by the flywheel. Alright. Hear that? We're scraping on something. even with the end. What the hell are we scraping on? Okay, so here's a good troubleshooting thing. I'm just working this back and forth. You can hear the scraping. Then I'm going to take the cover off and I'm going to see where the mark is from that scraping. Doesn't make any sense to me why it would be scraping, but we haven't changed any of that stuff. So right there is where it's scraping. It's touching the top. So the only thing I can think is maybe that whole thing is bent this way a little bit. Yeah, it does appear to be that. I suspect what's going on is just that coil. It's not quite the same as the other one, and it was making that bolt kind of torque to one side, so I just tapped on a little bit, and I'm also just gonna, I can see it's only right on the very tip. Just a little snippet off. Alright, so if I push down on it, it still does it, but otherwise it's free. And that's close enough. There'll never be downward pressure on it anyways. Now if you want to lubricate these non-coated lines, very thin spray lubricant. Again, do not use WD-40. You'll just screw yourself in the long run. Okay, there's that. There's that. This I will shorten up at a later date. That's pretty much it, guys. Oh, sorry. I got this little gasket here. This is actually off the old mower, or the old carburetor. And no, it's not the right one for that, and it doesn't fit on there anyways. Alright. Here's what's left of that filter after just picking it up for a second. Alright, let's see what we got for filter housing. Alright, you know what? I'm going to get a different... I don't have the filter for this. This is for the 5-horse. I'm going to get a different cover for this. I'll be right back. Alright, so I found the proper filter for that one. But I'm not going to use it, only because I would sooner have the black one on it, because I'm selling this. This'll it'll make it much more obvious to potential buyers clicking through on Marketplace that it's got all new carburetor. Make sure you oil your filter. You can use anything but WD-40, fluid film, anything that dries under wax. You don't want to use that. You want actual oil based. None of this fish oil business, none of the nano stuff. All that stuff dries and causes havoc. Together. And that snaps together. There, now this will be real obvious to potential buyers that it's a newer setup. So now I gotta get some fuel in it and see how our governor works. We may have to do some adjustment on the governor, and we may not. We'll see. So we'll pause you, get this down on the ground, and I'll just check the oil before we start it. I haven't started this or anything. The fellow I got it from said he used it once about 4 years ago, and he never got it to start since. He said it was in the, I think he said it was in the house when he bought the house, in the garage. Anyway, it has some oil in it, enough to run. It's definitely low, but we're going to change it, do an oil change, so we'll run it for a minute or two and get that oil hot, drain it out, and put some new stuff in. Alright, now we get to see if we've wasted a whole bunch of time. So, it says stop is out. We want full throttle. Plugs on, primed a couple of times. This is forward, neutral. Well, we want neutral so we don't chop ourselves to pieces. Let's see what happens. That is definitely not neutral. It's still going. Well, I guess we know what the string was for. Alright, we'll look at, you can see how easy it started. I wasn't even really trying to start it, I was just pulling it out to see if the thing was engaged. Now I'm going to do some adjustment. We'll get you a little closer and show you. Okay, sorry about that. It buggered off on me. Let's get back in here. Anyway, I'll tell you what I was up to. Let's pull this off here. So, RPM's quite a bit low. It's probably around 2,000. Could be upwards of 3,400 or 3,600 is the max. 3,000 is where I like to be. So, the way you adjust the RPM is by the tension on this spring right here. And the way you do that is by bending this little tab. This is the tab I was talking about earlier. It's the one I had to bend because I wanted to use this fill system. Usually they're much easier to deal with. But we don't know what this is going to do either. This might till just fine at that lower RPM. You don't want them going crazy. But we'll start with this. And that's about the maximum I can get on that. Now there is a couple other things I can do. I can shim this out, which is a pain in the ass. You really shouldn't do that. Or I can shorten this spring, which is probably what I'll do. There are a dozen different springs. There's probably one that'll fit on there and work just perfect. But right now it's working pretty good. Let's put this back on. I'll put this back on. We're going to run it for a minute or two and then change the oil. And then we'll take it in the garden and see how it works. Hey Jazzy. Hi Jazzy. Alright, let's do a little recap. We have this old tiller I paid $50 for. We've done a few updates. We've gone to a plasma prime carburetor fuel tank. The carburetors aren't interchangeable with the fuel tanks. You have to take both. We deleted the points and condenser by putting a magnetron coil on it. The belt needs to be adjusted, maybe, but with old equipment like this, it hasn't been set, or it's been set in how it's being used. It'll get a little bit of corrosion on the pulleys, and it'll make it do that sometimes. So we're going to use it a little bit before we try to adjust it. I had a lot of screwing around to make this kill circuit work with this carburetor, and I've run into this a couple times. This is the last time I'm doing it. I'm not doing this anymore. The next time I do one of these, I'm just taking all the plasma prime stuff that doesn't have the kill circuit, and I'm going to add a switch on the end of here. I've done it before with push mower or push mowers. I'll put a Honda style switch right on the end of it, and it'll be set. You don't have to worry about all that crap. Alright, so full throttle. Probably don't have to prime it. so as you can see, just by pulling back the handle, it stops. So it wouldn't do that before. So now all I have to do is make some adjustments down here. I don't have to take anything apart. I did have it apart though and looked at it. It looks like it probably had a new belt. I'm gonna say not too long ago. I know it was probably 20 years ago, but it hasn't been used much since then. And it's not cracked or anything, it's in good shape. So we're just gonna leave it. We'll do all the adjustment in the handle. And it seems to be a pretty good working little machine. So like I say, if you don't want to do all the screwing around trouble that I had, just take all the stuff off the push mower, the parts mower, and you can do away with that. Be much easier. That's what I'm going to do on the next one, but this one I wanted to do this way for some reason. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We're going to stick this one up for sale, get some money back out of our project, and we'll see you next time.